What do a belly dance, a World Cup anthem, and a Super Bowl halftime show have in common? Meet the queen of Latin music, Shakira.
I'm Leah, feeling intrigued today and ready to dive into Shakira's world.
And I'm Garrett, super excited to explore this one. Laid back learning with Leah and Garrett is rolling.
Shakira Isabel Mebarak Rapol, that full name alone carries a lot of history and sound.
Let's set the stage. Shakira is a Colombian singer-songwriter, dancer, and producer, often called the Queen of Latin Music. That title is tied to decades of hits in both Spanish and English, big tours across 5 continents, and a signature performance style that blends Middle Eastern belly dance with Latin and pop. She writes or co-writes most of her songs, which keeps her voice, literally and creatively, at the center of everything. That's pretty cool, right?
And the bilingual game plan matters. By releasing songs in Spanish and English, or doing paired versions like Suerte and Whenever Wherever, she kept her core Spanish-speaking fans while also breaking into English radio. Quick definition. When we say crossover, we mean moving from one primary market or language into another, like charting on U.S. mainstream radio while staying strong on Latin charts. That's a delicate balance, and she nailed it across multiple decades.
Awards back it up. She has multiple Grammys and a stack of Latin Grammys. The Grammys are the big U.S. music awards voted by recording professionals. The Latin Grammys recognize excellence across Spanish and Portuguese music scenes. She's won in major categories, and she's also been honored for philanthropy, which we'll get into.
Okay, beginning with the early years. Shakira was born in February 1977 in Barranquilla, Colombia, a Caribbean port city that soaks up music from everywhere. Her family background is Lebanese and Catalan Colombian with distant Italian roots. That mix shows up in her sound. As a kid, her dad took her to a Middle Eastern restaurant where she heard the doumbek, a goblet drum. She jumped on a table and danced. Those belly dance isolations became a lifelong signature.
Early challenges hit hard. She was rejected from her school choir because teachers thought her vibrato was too strong. Classmates even said she sounded like a goat. Instead of quitting, she leaned into solo performances where that tone stood out. Around 8, her father went bankrupt, and the family sold a lot, like furniture and their color TV. That experience sharpened her empathy for kids in tough spots, which later fueled her education-focused foundation.
By age 10, she was winning talent contests, and by 13, she had a Sony Music Columbia deal. Sony is one of the major record labels, meaning she had real industry backing super young. Her first albums, Magia and Peligro, didn't hit big, but they put original songs on record and got her on national TV. She acted in a telenovela too, El Oasis, while recalibrating her music. Then came the spark that changed everything.
All right, moving into the rise. Pies Descalzos in 1995 established her Latin pop rock blueprint with Estoy Aquí as a calling card. It sold in the millions and led to a long tour across Latin America, the US, and Spain. Next, Donde Están los Ladrones in 1998 sharpened the songwriting and guitar edge. She recorded an MTV Unplugged in 1999. It was the first Spanish-language Unplugged for MTV, and it stripped the songs to voice and instruments, showing her as a musician, not just a dancer.
Why did that Unplugged matter so much?
Because it proved the songs stand on their own. No big production needed. For English-language audiences who might not have known her yet, critics heard craft and control. Then in 2001, Laundry Service landed with Whenever, Wherever, which used Andean instruments like the pan flute and charango, a small lute. The album sold about 15 million worldwide and cemented her English crossover while keeping Spanish releases alive in parallel.
Then came Hips Don't Lie in 2006 with Wyclef Jean, the Haitian-American rapper and producer. It hit #1 in more than 55 countries. Quick chart note, The Billboard Hot 100 is the main U.S. singles chart measured by sales, streams, and radio play. Topping that is like the mountaintop. She performed Hips Don't Lie at the 2006 FIFA World Cup closing ceremony, tying her brand to football on a global stage.
In between those big fireworks, there was La Tortura with Alejandro Sanz, who is a major Spanish singer-songwriter. It dominated Latin radio and TV. She also teamed with Beyoncé, the American pop icon, on Beautiful Liar in 2007, which leapt up the U.S. charts. Strategically, she signed a large Live Nation deal in 2008 that bundled touring, sponsorships, and merch that anticipated how live shows would drive music careers in the streaming era.
Fast forward to 2010. Waka Waka became the official 2010 FIFA World Cup song and the biggest-selling World Cup song ever. Sale El Sol, mostly in Spanish, followed and reaffirmed her leadership in Latin pop. She toured the world again and later served as a coach on The Voice in the U.S., which put her studio instincts on TV. And through all of this, she kept pushing philanthropy with the Barefoot Foundation, building and supporting schools in underserved Colombian communities. That's education plus nutrition and teacher training, not just a ribbon cutting.
Now the recent chapter, and it is stacked. In 2016, she voiced Gazelle in Disney's Zootopia and sang Try Everything, which became a motivation anthem for kids. She also linked up with Carlos Vives, the Colombian legend, on La Bicicleta, and with Maluma, the Colombian Urbano star, on Chantaje. Then El Dorado in 2017 won her another Grammy for Best Latin Pop Album in 2018. That's a U.S. Grammy, not just Latin Grammys. It marked a streaming era high point.
The 2020 Super Bowl halftime with Jennifer Lopez, who is an American singer and actress, was a cultural landmark. It drew about 103 million viewers. Then a sprint of collaborations and solo moves set the stage for a wild 2023. Shakira dropped Shakira Bar P Music Sessions, Vol 53, with Bizarrap, the Argentine producer famous for viral sessions. It set 14 Guinness World Records and became the first Spanish-language track by a woman to debut in the U.S. Hot 100 Top 10. She and Karol G, a Colombian global pop powerhouse, released TQG, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard Global 200.
In 2024, she released Las Mujeres Ya No Lloran, an all-Spanish album whose title translates to Women Don't Cry Anymore. It debuted at #1 on Top Latin Albums. Quick note, Top Latin Albums is Billboard's U.S. chart that tracks Latin albums by sales and streams. You'll also hear the term album equivalent units, which is a way to combine sales and streaming into one number. She did a surprise Times Square concert, popped up at Coachella with Bizarrap, and delivered the first ever halftime show at a soccer championship final during Copa America.
Then the 2025 to 2026 world tour for that album broke records. As of January 2026, it became the highest-grossing Latin tour ever, bringing in about $422 million with about 3.3 million tickets sold. She played a massive free show in Rio de Janeiro with an estimated crowd of about 2 million people. She adapted to postponements in some regions for security reasons, then kept going with U.S. and European dates, including a 12-show residency in Madrid at a purpose-built venue literally nicknamed Shakira Stadium. That residency format means multiple shows in one city, which cuts travel strain and lets productions scale up.
And the football thread continued. She performed Die Die, the official 2026 FIFA World Cup song, with Burna Boy, the Nigerian Afrobeat star, at the opening ceremony in Mexico City and again at the final halftime. She was also nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Along the way, she kept stacking radio wins. Punteria with Cardi B topped Latin airplay formats, and she even reached #1 on the regional Mexican airplay chart, which is usually dominated by Mexican genre specialists. That breadth is rare.
Here's a question with some heat. People say Shakira opened the doors of the international market for other Latin artists. I think there's a strong case her bilingual releases, her MTV and FIFA moments, and her ability to headline something like the Super Bowl created a wider runway for Spanish-language pop to live at the center of global charts. Not the only factor, but a huge one. Real talk. Kids were discovering Spanish through her music in classrooms and language apps. That's cultural reach beyond a hit single.
I hear you. At the same time, giving singular credit feels tricky. Gloria Estefan, the Cuban-American icon, built a crossover path in the 1980s and 1990s. Ricky Martin, the Puerto Rican star, had a massive late 1990s breakout with Livin' La Vida Loca. Jennifer Lopez was crossing film, TV, and music, so the door was opening from multiple hinges. Shakira's run expanded the hallway, but I'm not sure the phrase "open the doors" belongs to any one artist.
Totally fair. Let me add this angle. She maintained Spanish-only smashes even at her English peak. That's unusual, and she wrote or co-wrote most of it, which meant she controlled how the fusion sounded. It's like being the architect and the builder. So while others kicked through the wall, she redesigned the floor plan to fit Spanish and English under the same roof for decades.
So maybe the cleanest take is this. There's a collective wave of Latin artists pushing global pop forward. Within that wave, Shakira is one of the defining forces, with evidence across 4 decades, from MTV Unplugged to World Cup anthems to streaming records with Bizarrap. I can get behind that idea.
Pop culture snapshots say a lot. That 2020 halftime show with Jennifer Lopez was not just a performance. It was choreography pulling in champeta, an Afro-Colombian dance, and it drew more viewers than the game. Then there's Zootopia, where she voices Gazelle. A whole new generation met her voice through Try Everything. That's multi-generational reach, which is hard to engineer.
What if we twist the timeline? Imagine Shakira never released Laundry Service in 2001. She stays Spanish only through the early 2000s. Without Whenever, Wherever in English, U.S. pop radio might have leaned more on Ricky Martin, Jennifer Lopez, and Enrique Iglesias to carry the crossover lane. Her name would still be huge in the Spanish market, but the English mainstream might meet her later.
I wonder if Hips Don't Lie would have landed the same way in 2006 without that earlier English foothold. It might still be a monster hit, but would TV producers and brands have been as ready to place her at global tentpoles like the World Cup stage and, years later, the Super Bowl? There's a compounding effect. Early bilingual momentum probably set up the later mega moments.
And if her English crossover delayed, maybe the Live Nation mega deal in 2008 looks different. Touring is a trust game. Promoters need proof you can fill stadiums across language lines. Without Laundry Service, the proof points shift. She still has the talent and the catalog, but the route to global primetime might take an extra album cycle or two.
From a 4-year-old dancing on a restaurant table to rewriting pop playbooks across languages, that arc is wild and kind of beautiful.
Stay curious. Shakira's story shows how rhythm, writing, and reach can move in sync for a very long time.